Hi, and thanks for coming in. I hope things are well with you. This week I've got about 7 things on the go on the van build, just jumping from one thing to another. It seems like I'm coming to that part of the process. In every van build, there's a whole lot of little things that need to be done and need to be done right, but don't warrant a video all dedicated just to themselves. So I'm going to put 2 or 3 of those together for you this week and hope you find it useful. And if you do find it useful, please subscribe. Please leave a comment if you'd like to. Love to hear from you. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and I hope it's useful to you. Let's get started. Now, because I think differently than most people, the next step for me in my van build process is to frame out the bed. Let me tell you why. Our bed is going to be up all the time, and below the bed will be the garage where we keep our camping stuff, our bicycles, the fresh water tank, the electrical stuff in that. Really sweet. Now, our heads will be at this end of the bed. Our feet will be at this end of the bed. The bicycles are going to load front to back. Now, as it turns out, the bicycles are longer than the bed is wide. So the garage, in theory, needs to be wider than the bed. I don't want to do that. So this is how we're going to get around it. On this side, the bicycle is going to tuck up right against the wheel well. On the wheel well will be the fresh water tank, the hot water tank behind it. But that, where the bicycle is going to extend beyond the bed into what will look like the kitchen cabinets. On this other side, the bicycle is going to tuck up against that wheel well. Above the wheel well will be the batteries, behind it the electrical panel, and then the bicycle will extend beyond the bed to the edge of this cabinet. And in this space, the bicycle will be below, and above it, I'm going to build a bookcase or something, knick-knack show holder or some kind of a deal to hold it there. For the actual bed framing, I anchored a piece of wood on each side of the van, anchored to the frame with these jack nuts. But that's not what's holding the weight. This piece of wood rests directly on the structure of the van. So the weight that's on the bed will be held up directly by the frame of the van itself. This jack nut is just holding the wood in place against the side. The center part of the bed frame are 3 of these pieces of steel. They're a light steel I bought from IKEA. I'll put the model number down below. They were $20 a piece. I couldn't believe it. They're very shallow profile, but they're strong. They're doing exactly what they were designed to do here. Nice setup. The front of the bed I'm framing with a plywood beam because I want that flexibility. And the back of the bed across the door, I'll put a piece of wood there too to carry the edge of the mattress. So I'm up on the roof and I have to drill the hole to connect the solar panels to the charge controller. Right now I have no idea what kind of solar panels I'm going to use. I have no idea what charge controller I'm going to use. And so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, how in the heck am I going to know what to do? I did a little research and it turns out, it's not that hard. Think of it in terms of your whole solar system as a system with a bunch of different components, and those components all have to tie in and talk to each other or the system won't work. Well, on the roof of my van, because of the size of my van, I'm going to max out somewhere between 400 and 500 watts in solar panels. I think watts is the right word, however they do that. 400 to 500 is the most I'm going to get, probably a bit closer to 4. Doing a little research into the charge controllers, I found out the charge controllers are built in units as well. So there's a 500 something charge controller that will, no matter how much, if I put between up to 500 somethings on my roof and put a 500 something charge controller down below, they're going to work together. It's no problem at all. So then the question just becomes, how do I connect them? So I phoned a local RV store, and the lady put me in touch with one of the technicians on the floor, and we had a conversation. I told him what I was doing, and he said, geez, all you need is big enough wire to carry the current from above down to below, and if you're maxing out at 500, then 8 gauge is ample. So I bought some 8 gauge wire, a red one and a black one, and I'm going to drill a hole here, and I'm going to pull it through. And then in the springtime, when I get the van out of the shop and build the roof rack, I can put the solar panels on. It won't be a problem. I know that I'll have the capacity. That's the one thing. The second thing is I don't know where to put the hole because I don't know what panels I'm going to use. I don't know how the wires work on them. So I don't know exactly where to put the junction box to be, really efficient. So efficiency's gone out the window. I do know that I'm going to have a max air fan at the back of the van over top of the bed in the final bay, between the struts of the final bay. So I've got the max air fan here. So the piece of real estate I have in the roof between the max air fan and the edge of the roof, so I should be safe here. It won't be in the way of anything. So I'm going to drill my hole here, pull the wires through, and then come springtime when I put the panels on, if the wires don't connect up properly, we'll just have to add to the wires. It's not rocket surgery. It's easily done. That's what how we'll take care of it. Now, as I pull the wires through these holes, I'm going to run them through grommets. A grommet is going to line the inside of the hole so the wire can come through, and it protects the wire from rubbing or chafing on the side of the hole. This is really important that it be done properly, so that's what I'm going to use here. The other thing I'm doing, and this is something that I haven't heard of before, I'm going to run a smaller grommet, and I'm going to run two 16 gauge wires up along with the wire for the solar panels. And that'll get me two circuits up on the roof that are being fed from down below. I'm not going to connect them to anything right now, but going forward, if I want to add some outside lights or cameras, maybe even a power awning, I'll already have access to power on the roof of the van. I won't have to worry about trying to fish wires through the inside of the finished product. So let's get started. Okay, so I've got the two holes drilled and the grommets installed. It wasn't that hard, really. It was worked out fine. And now I'll pull the wires through from the bottom. The wires run through the roof, protected by the grommets. They'll run inside the ceiling and then into the corner itself, down inside the panels, and out at the bottom where the charge controller is going to go. Okay, so I've got my lead for the solar panels. This goes down inside to the charge controller. And these are my two spares just in case I ever want to have power up on the roof for some reason. Good thing to have. Now I can finish the inside, and we'll come back to these in the springtime. In this video, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I've been trying to release these videos in the sequence and order that I was actually doing the work in, so you can see how the whole project went together. But in this case, today I want to jump ahead. And the reason for that is I've run into something this week that, had I not been paying attention all the way through the build, I would have had a real problem with. It would have been a real challenge. And that's this corner right here. In a Promaster, this corner is on a 45-degree angle to the wall and the door, and it twists. It twists as it goes up, it bends in as it goes up, and it leans forward towards the front as it goes up. It's a real piece of work. I don't know what engineer figured this one out. Up to now, I've released several videos on scribing, different scribing techniques, and there are another 3 or 4 to go at least. Scribing in a van build is absolutely critical. It's a skill you need to develop as you go. Everything in these things is crooked. The walls are crooked, the ceiling's crooked, the floor is crooked, where the pieces come together are crooked. The windows aren't square. It's really a challenge for scribing, but this one is the hardest one I've seen in a long time. During my career, I've done a lot of scribing. I want to share with you how to do this, and hopefully you'll see the importance of really trying to hone those scribing skills as you do your build. Let me show you. Now, there are some things in this video that you haven't seen yet. I haven't shown you the vinyl. I don't know if I've even shown you this detail. But I wanted to cover this because this is the first time I've run into this type of a problem. But this is a Promaster. I've never been inside a Mercedes Sprinter van or a Ford Transit. You may have this happen to you sooner in the process than I am. And this is a hard one. I want to show you how it can be. In this particular case, I'm trying to fit this panel in behind this edge here. And as it goes up, it's on an angle and it twists. It twists as it goes up, it leans in at some places, it curls over at the top, and it gets narrower on each side, but not symmetrically. It's a real challenge. It's the first time I've had it. You may have it sooner, depending on the design of your van and the type of van it is. You may run into this earlier, so I wanted to share it with you now. In a case like this, it's more a fitting process than a scribing process, but your scribing skills and the ability to scribe is going to make it so much easier. So the first thing you do is you take a in this particular one, I've got to do it in 2 pieces. I can't make a pattern out of 1 piece. It's impossible. I can't, I don't know how to do that. So I take a piece of plywood, just a piece of scrap. You may see this in another video. Piece of scrap, and I fit it in. There. That one's going to work. That's the bottom half. You make a cut, you see how it looks, you take a fit, you do a little shaving, you do this. This is the second one I did for this one. The first one I got close, but it wasn't, I overcut some pieces, so I finished off. Okay, I'll make an adjustment. The top piece, the second piece, is even more difficult because the second piece has to fit between here and here. It curls up, it curls this way, and as it curls, as it curls, I want the edge of it to be straight with this, parallel with this edge of the pine. Let me show you. You see this? I want my piece to come in straight as well. But that's going to be a real challenge because that piece, as things go around curves, the line changes. So to make the pattern, I experimented with some saw cuts in the back to try and get more flexibility. I put some tape on to prevent it from breaking. I needed this flexibility to be able to make the pattern, but I'm not going to have that in the finished product, the finished piece. I think it'll be better without it. So now, if I can get this piece cut just that way, it's going to work out just fine. The critical thing about the second piece of the pattern, though, is you're not only cutting to this edge and this edge, you're cutting to the bottom as well. You're fitting to the bottom. These 2 pieces have to butt together perfectly, or when you make your pattern, you won't be sure you're doing it right. It's got to be fitted properly. Take the time to do it. I probably have about 45 minutes invested into making these 2 pieces, and I'm not going to use them. Anyway, well, I'm going to use them for the pattern, but I'm not going to use them. So you take those 2 pieces, and you put them on a piece of plywood, and you make a single piece to see how it's going to fit. And this one will go in, and it's going to be great. If I can get another piece like that, it'll be fantastic. It'll be perfect. Now, still needs a little bit of fitting. I can make some notes about that. When I make my final one, it'll be fine. The big test is there's one of these. There's one of these on the other side of the van. And now, before I do anything with this one, I'm going to see how it fits over there. And I've done that, and I can make 2 pieces out of the same pattern, which is excellent, which is just great for me. If you do, it's the stroke of luck. So then I take that piece of plywood, put it on another piece of plywood, and make a final piece. Check to make sure it fits okay. Then I wrap it with vinyl, and this is what it looks like when it's done. And when I put it in, it is going to fit really nicely. It's going to look finished. And here we are. First, the 2-piece pattern. Now, this is the second attempt at the 2-piece pattern. The first one ended up in the garbage can. It wasn't even close. But with a little practice, you get better at it. Number 2 is the 1-piece pattern sample. Carefully fitted. And it, too, was overcut a little bit along the edge, but I understood how much I needed to add to it. So when I made my final piece, I made those final adjustments, made sure it fitted properly, then wrapped it in vinyl. I could take this centerpiece, roll it over, and use it on the opposite side as a pattern for the opposite side as well, which worked out well. Some minor adjustments, but you can make those as you go. The secret here is to be patient and to understand that you're going to probably use 2 or 3 or 4 different styles of scribing technique. So please watch the videos as they come out. And be mindful as you go along during your van build. And when you run into this kind of a challenge, you'll know how to address it. You can do this. And here's the finished product. For these 2 panels, I had to use some exposed fasteners, but I'm really pleased with the way it turned out.